Four astronauts are collecting rock samples on the surface of Mars outside their ship when their crewmates inside warn them of a massive sandstorm heading straight for them, far worse than anything they expected. The team rushes back into the ship and debates whether to wait out the storm until it calms or risk launching immediately and heading back to Earth. Most of them want to stay and take the chance on Mars, but Captain Melissa uses her authority, ends the discussion, and decides they're leaving for Earth right away. As they prepare for takeoff, debris from the storm slams into the ship, causing serious damage that forces them to delay launch and make repairs first. While struggling to fix the problems and get back inside, one astronaut named Mark gets hit by flying wreckage and is hurled away from the group. The impact destroys his comms device, leaving the rest of the crew unable to contact him or locate him. The storm grows even stronger with every passing minute. The team inside warns that the ship won't withstand the brutal winds much longer and insists they have to launch immediately. Captain Melissa sends the rest of the crew to their stations and stays behind alone to search for Mark. Despite doing everything she can, she is forced to return to the ship to save the lives of the others. The crew declares Mark lost, presumed dead, and they are devastated. The ship finally lifts off from Mars and sets course for Earth. Back on Earth, NASA's executive director, Teddy, holds a press conference with reporters and cameras. He announces that the Mars mission was a success and the crew is now on their way home, but sadly, one member was lost. Mark wakes up on Mars after being unconscious, half his body buried in sand. The suit's indicators show his oxygen level and blood pressure are critically low. He gets up, realizes he's far from the wreckage, and drags himself back to the habitat. Mark pulls the metal debris out of his body, but leaves the iron part stuck in to maintain suit pressure. He barely makes it inside the base, uses the medical equipment to remove the rest of the shrapnel, stitches the wound, and records a video log explaining what happened. He says the debris destroyed his comms device, but he's still alive in the suit. He honestly says he doesn't blame his team for leaving. He looked dead by all readings. Mark knows he has at least 4 years until NASA could send another mission, but by then food and water will be gone, and he'll be dead. He walks around the base, sees what his crew left behind, keeps a few personal items, searches the storage, grabs a notebook, and writes down exactly how much food is left. He calculates he has supplies for 1 year and needs to find a way to grow food to stretch it 3 more years. He finds some potatoes the team left and decides to figure out how to plant and grow them on Mars. Mark works to clean the solar panels, brings large amounts of soil from outside, empties it inside the habitat, and uses the crew's leftover toilet waste as fertilizer for the potatoes. He mixes the soil, plants the potatoes, but soon discovers he doesn't have enough water to irrigate them properly. He figures out a way to produce more water by building a device that extracts moisture from the hydrogen gas produced by burning chemical fuel. Days later, the inner walls of the artificial greenhouse are covered in water vapor, and the plants finally start growing. On Earth, NASA holds a funeral for Mark, whom they believe is dead. Agent Vincent talks to Director Teddy about returning to Mars to retrieve the equipment the team had to abandon to save their lives. But Teddy refuses, saying everything they do must be televised, and he doesn't want people to see Mark's body. Vincent suggests waiting a while and points out Mark's body couldn't decompose on Mars, so they could frame a mission as recovering his remains for the family. Mandy, the satellite supervisor, notices coordinates matching Mark's location and detects movement in the habitat. She quickly calls Teddy to report what she saw. Teddy's convinced the footage is enough proof Mark is still alive. They debate what to tell the public since the recording must be broadcast within 24 hours. They're worried about public backlash against NASA for abandoning an astronaut. Teddy decides to hold a press conference and announces they will do everything possible to bring Mark home safely. Mark studies the maps in the habitat and figures out the exact spot where he needs to be in 4 years to meet the NASA rescue mission. He calculates the distance, about 3,200 kilometers, and the rover moves at 35 kilometers per hour, so it will take him around 50 days to reach it once he leaves the base. Mark works on modifying the rover so it can travel without needing to return to recharge the batteries. He succeeds in doubling the battery life, but to achieve that, he has to disable the rover's heating system to cut power consumption. Because that makes the interior freezing cold, he won't survive the long trip without heat. So he decides to dig and uses radioactive materials to generate warmth inside. NASA holds a press conference and announces that satellite imagery confirmed Mark is still alive and actively planning to meet the incoming mission. They recalculate the arrival time and realize the rescue team is only 9 months away instead of 4 years. They hope they reach him before anything bad happens. They decide not to tell Mark's original crew, who are already on their way back to Earth, the truth, so they don't get distracted during their return trip. Mark harvests 400 potatoes from his garden, replants the small ones, and saves the large ones to eat later. Mark figures out the location of Pathfinder, a probe lost on Mars by NASA many years ago. He uses it to communicate with the second Pathfinder on Earth. All NASA can do at first is move the camera on the Mars Pathfinder, but Mark improvises and creates a system he calls hexadecimal to communicate in more than just yes or no. NASA uses Pathfinder to send Mark instructions on how to hack the rover's system and establish real communication. Vincent contacts Mark and explains the rescue plan. Mark feels relieved knowing he will be saved. He asks about his crew's reaction when they learned he was alive, but Vincent admits they still haven't been told. Mark gets upset that NASA is hiding the truth from his team. Vincent finally agrees to inform the crew. The crew watches the video where NASA announces Mark is still alive and that a rescue mission is being planned. Mark calculates his supplies and realizes that all the food in the habitat, plus the potatoes he's growing, will be enough to last until NASA can send the mission, as long as everything goes according to plan with no problems. One day, while Mark is working in the greenhouse, the airlock suddenly explodes. Mark gets injured and his helmet cracks. He quickly grabs duct tape and seals a crack to stop the oxygen leak. He enters the greenhouse but finds that all the potato plants have been exposed to the Martian atmosphere and are completely ruined. Even the water reclaimer he built is destroyed. Mark reports what happened to NASA. They realize that if they don't speed up the rescue preparations, Mark will run out of food and die before they can reach him. Mark's original crew learns the truth, gets permission from NASA, and contacts him. They're overjoyed and joke with him over the radio. Mark cleans up the greenhouse, removes all the plastic sheets and soil, and repairs the hole caused by the explosion. NASA decides to skip the full inspection of the rescue ship, believing it has no problems and that the check would waste valuable time. When the ship launches, it unfortunately explodes and all the agency's hard work is lost. The Chinese Space Agency hears about the failed launch and offers help. With the assistance of physicist Rich, NASA develops a new rescue plan that can reach Mark much faster. The ship carrying Mark's crew is named Hermes. Rich explains that Hermes will enter Earth orbit to be resupplied with equipment and food, then return to Mars to rescue Mark without landing on the surface. The only problem with the plan is that it will add 500 extra days to the arrival time at Mars. Director Teddy does not approve the plan because he doesn't want to risk the lives of the Hermes crew to save Mark. Another member of the NASA team believes the decision is unfair, so he secretly sent the full details of the plan to the Hermes crew. The team discusses the plan among themselves and realizes that carrying it out would make them considered mutineers in the eyes of NASA. They talk about whether they are willing to spend another 500 days in space far away from their families. In the end, the majority agrees it is the right thing to do after they take a vote. Each crew member calls their family to let them know they will be delayed much longer than originally planned. NASA notices that Hermes is no longer following its scheduled trajectory. To complete the plan, Mark must find a way to gather all the survival equipment, including the oxygen generators and heaters, and take them with him to meet Hermes when it passes by Mars. Hermes flies past Earth without landing, receives the supplies and food, and uses a slingshot maneuver around Earth's gravity to gain speed and head toward deep space without burning too much fuel. 7 months later, Mark prepares to finally meet the Hermes. He gathers all the equipment, loads it into the rover, and takes the solar panels with him so he can recharge the rover without having to return to the habitat. NASA tells Mark he must move quickly to reach the rendezvous point with Hermes. Mark removes all unnecessary equipment from the rover and keeps only what 6 crew members would need, making sure he has exactly enough for one person for the entire journey. He receives instructions to detach the front and side panels of the ship and replace them with a large parachute to reduce weight. He also removes all control panels because Hermes will remotely pilot his ship. Mark leaves the rover for the last time. answers the ship, shaves his long beard, puts on clean clothes and a spacesuit, and waits for instructions from his crew. They warn him he might lose consciousness from the intense launch force. Mark's ship launches, and the parachute deploys immediately toward space. Mark loses consciousness and cannot communicate with the crew to let them know he is okay. When he wakes, the crew tells him they cannot bring their ship any closer to Mars. Captain Melissa orders one crew member to make a small explosive charge and attach it to the rear of the ship to slow them down and give them a better chance to rescue Mark. They manage to get closer to Mark's ship, but it is still not enough. Melissa puts on her spacesuit, straps herself into a chair, ties the chair to the ship with a long tether, and heads toward Mark. Unfortunately, the tether is not long enough. Mark creates an opening in his suit and uses the escaping air pressure to propel himself toward Melissa. Finally, Melissa reaches him and they return to Hermes together. Mark meets his crewmates, who are overjoyed at the success of the mission. They inform NASA that they have Mark and are now on their way back to Earth. Years later on Earth, Mark teaches new NASA recruits safety procedures and preparation for space. A new NASA mission launches, and the crew watches the ship take off on television while sitting at home with their families. And with that, the film ends. If you enjoyed this recap, smash the like button and let us know your favorite part in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Thanks for watching.